It is your Friday daily delivery. I am Michael Rand. Glad to be back at it after that one-day holiday break. Of course, the weekend coming up, so last show of the week, but hope everyone's having a great day. Hope everybody got a chance to celebrate. The weather was spotty yesterday. You had all sorts of rain. A lot of fireworks got canceled. We celebrated a lot on Wednesday. Went to a great party with some friends. That was good times. The kids swam, had some good times. It was great. Hope you guys got a chance to do more on Wednesday than Thursday. Maybe got out some yesterday and get out some today. It's supposed to be better today. A lot of those fireworks postponed until today, so maybe just as well heading into the weekend with some more festivities to come. Festivities on this show for sure. Chuck Aoki, a Paralympic athlete from Minneapolis, wheelchair rugby team, will join me here in just a little bit. Great conversation with him, Paralympics later on this summer. You'll want to check that out. Just a really, really good conversation, really good chance to catch up with Chuck on all things about his career, but also he's a big Minnesota sports fan. He's a Minneapolis native, and we talked a little Vikings, things like that. So stick around for my conversation with Chuck Aoki in just a few minutes. Some Twins stuff at the end of the show. 12-3 win yesterday. Jose Miranda, 5 hits in a game that only went like 6.5 innings. That's amazing to me to see how much he did in just that short amount of time. A rain-shortened victory for the Twins, but took 2 out of 3 from Detroit. Their fourth straight series win. I think 6 out of 7. They've won the series. Just on a nice little roll right now where they're being consistent and very good right now. So I'll have some thoughts on that at the end of the show. First, though, what I miss, kind of a double dose of basketball, starting with kind of the nightmare scenario for the Lynx. They lose to Connecticut on Thursday. That's not the nightmare. Connecticut's a good team. That's going to happen. It was a competitive, tight game, but it was the third loss in four WNBA games for the Lynx. A little bit of a hangover since the Commissioner Cup victory, although they have been playing some pretty good teams lately as well. Nightmare is that Napheesa Collier, their do-everything star player, had to leave the game in the third quarter with a foot injury and did not return. We don't know the severity of it at this point. It was a 2-point game when she left. The Lynx lose by 5. No, it's a foot injury. It's a non-contact as described by Kent Youngblood. Basically, she was on the court. She left 55-53, 2.5 minutes left in the third quarter, as Kent wrote. She made a cut. She came up limping. No contact that was apparent. Left the game with what was called a left foot injury. Didn't return. Don't know what to make of that long term, but when someone leaves a game and doesn't return, it doesn't sound good for at least a short-term kind of comeback for Collier. And of course, that's not just her Lynx career. That's the Olympics as well. She is an Olympian. The Olympics coming up in not too long. Hoping that doesn't impact her ability to play over in Paris. Hoping that doesn't impact her Lynx season. Minnesota has 5 games left before the Olympic break. The first one tomorrow against the Washington Mystics. The last one against the Atlanta Dream Wednesday, July 17th. By the way, the Indiana Fever visit the Lynx on July 14th. That is the Caitlin Clark game. If you have not been living on this planet, Caitlin Clark will be here in a little over a week, but 5 games. I don't know. We don't know her status, but 5 games before the break. Then, of course, she's supposed to play for Team USA, but almost a month off before the Lynx play again on August 15th, July 17th to August 15th. So if it is kind of a mid-level injury, we'll see how it affects her Olympic play, but also it could, the Olympic break, if she is forced to miss that time, which would be a shame, would work in the Lynx' favor and hopefully getting her healthy, because she does so much for this team. One of the things that's been well documented about this team this year is how balanced and how good they are around her, but she is still the center of their universe, the thing that everybody orbits around. Leads the team in points, leads the team in steals, leads the team in rebounds, second in block shots, third in assists. She does everything for this team. First in free throws attempted. Like, she is their star player, their superstar player. Probably doesn't get enough credit for how good she is sometimes, but she is who everybody else revolves around, and to be missing that for any amount of time will be a challenge. And the Lynx have been relatively healthy this season. I mean, think about this. Collier, Kayla McBride, Alana Smith, and Courtney Williams have all started all 20 games so far this season for the Lynx, who are 14-6. Bridget Carlton started 16 of them. So they've had a very consistent starting lineup so far this season. How that changes if Collier is out for any significant amount of time will be something to watch as well. So wait and see how serious this is. You don't like it when someone leaves and can't come back. That's not usually a good sign. But we will wait for any final judgment until we get more word on how serious this injury is. And since there was no show yesterday, I have not yet talked about what seems like a minor but is rather significant to me signing for the Timberwolves, grabbing Joe Ingles on a one-year deal. I think the reported was $3.3 million. Veteran who, can make some plays but can also make some shots. Over 40% from three-point range last season, played a long time in Utah, has been teammates with Mike Conley Jr. and with Rudy Gobert before. A trash talker, a good talker, should be good for us here in the media. Just an interesting guy, a good guy, a veteran, but someone who is kind of at that stage of his career where he's got choices. He's got opportunities. He can go various places on one-year contracts. Still a useful player, but not the kind of guy someone is probably going to sign to a lucrative multi-year deal. Like, he's 36 now, came over from Australia originally. So a guy who's got options. And if he's a guy who's picking the Timberwolves, a guy who says, look, this is a team that has a chance to win. Maybe I could squeeze a little bit more money somewhere else. Maybe I could get a little bit more term or, security somewhere else. But I want to go to Minnesota, a team that just made the Western Conference Finals, a team where I've got some familiarity with some teammates. That's the team maybe that the Wolves are starting to become. They have not been that team for, any time that I can really remember for a very long time, where a veteran would look at them and say, man, that is a good basketball situation that I want to be a part of. That is a team that could be a championship contender. I can go and be a piece. I can be an 8th, 9th, 10th guy. Some nights I might play 25 minutes. Some nights I might play 8 minutes. And I'm okay with that depending on the matchups, because I know it is all for the greater good of trying to build a championship playoff roster. That's what this signing is to me. If you tell me you can have Kyle Anderson for 3 years and $27 million like he wound up getting from the Warriors, or you can have Joe Ingles for 1 year, a little over $3 million, I will take the Joe Ingles deal. That is no knock against Kyle Anderson. It's just the kind of flexibility and the kind of player he is. They need shooting. They need people who, especially on that second unit, can put the ball in the basket. Now you've got Joe Ingles. Now you've drafted Rob Dillingham. You drafted Terrence Shannon Jr. Don't want to put too much on those young guys in particular, or on Ingles, who is more in the tail end of his career, but guys who can definitely help inject some offense into the second unit. Too often last year, you would watch a Wolves game and you'd look at them when they had certain lineups out there and you'd be like, man, how are they going to score? 3 or 4 of those guys out there just aren't guys who can create their own shot, aren't guys who are dynamic offensive players. That changes this season. Now, trade-off is you're probably not as good defensively as you were with some of the guys that went away. No Kyle Anderson, Monty Morris signed elsewhere. Not having those guys back will change some of how you play, but the effectiveness overall, I feel like, will keep going up. I feel like the Wolves, on balance, have gotten a little bit better this offseason than they were last year, which is hard to do given their cap situation and the draft assets they had coming into the draft. Just a really nice job so far by Tim Connolly adding to this roster without having to disrupt it in a big way. And again, he still could. We don't know what he's got up his sleeve for the rest of the offseason, but if nothing else happened, you would feel pretty good, especially relative to the rest of the Western Conference. Who else got a lot better this year or has the chance to get a lot better this offseason? Oklahoma City, yeah. I think they made some good moves this offseason, especially getting Alex Caruso from Chicago for Josh Giddey. I think that was a fleecing on their part, and they got all these draft assets in the future. They are set up nicely for the present and the future. They were the number one seed last year. They could be the number one seed again, but they are still somewhat untested as a playoff team. Dallas got themselves Klay Thompson. That should be an interesting fit. Maybe they got better. But Denver losing Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, KCP, that is going to make them worse because not only is your starting lineup disrupted, you were already a little thin in your rotation. Now you're another player down in an already thin roster. Lakers didn't get any better. They're losing guys. They're getting older. Clippers, Paul George goes to Philadelphia. They are on the downswing, you would imagine. Phoenix is who they are. I can't take New Orleans seriously as long as Zion can't stay healthy at critical moments. I think they're dangerous, but they are not serious unless they have more stability from their superstars. So you'll just look up and down the West. I think the top three in the West next year are probably Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Dallas. You got to throw Denver in there as well, of course, because KCP doesn't totally derail what you got. So maybe that's a projected top four next year, but feels like the West is still open. Feels like there's still an opportunity. The Wolves staying in that mix, not going too far down in a year where they don't have too much flexibility, preaching the possibility of some of their internal improvements, preaching stability, things like that. I like their chances next season. I think they were able to finesse this offseason so far better than I could have anticipated. But we will see ultimately once they start throwing the ball up in the air in October.
I'm Chris Hine, Timberwolves beat writer at the Star Tribune and the first 5-time guest in daily delivery history. Thank you for listening to this podcast. This work is made possible by our Star Tribune subscribers. For unlimited access to the articles mentioned in this podcast, our coverage of Minnesota sports from pros to preps, and even all of Rand's future blog posts about how the Timberwolves should trade for players they will never get, go to startribune.com/subscribe.
Happy to be joined today by Chuck Aoki, Minneapolis' own, right? You're not here right now, but you've been here for a long time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, well, I still bleed purple and gold, baby. So don't you fret. Minneapolis in here.
Well, you've been. I think we've heard your name for years and years because of how often and how much you've represented the U.S. and Minnesota in the Paralympic Games. You've got another opportunity coming up here in not too long.Maybe for the listeners here, just tell us what you've been up to and kind of just the journey you've been on.
Yeah, no, it's been an amazing journey. It all started in Golden Valley, Minnesota. Courage Kenny, gotta always shout them out. I play the sport of wheelchair rugby. I've been doing it for a very long time at this point. I'm a grizzled old veteran at the age of 33. I've been to the last 3 Paralympic Games, London, Rio, and Tokyo. Won bronze medal at the first one, back-to-back silvers now, which I always tell people in team sports, unfortunately, silver means that you did lose your last match, which is tough. But with we're out here grinding. The team feels really good. We've had a great year of competition. There's a lot of change in the team. I had one coach my entire career, and now have a new coach for this quad. Paralympics and Olympics, we think in 4-year quads. So it is, but had a new coach, brought a lot of exciting ideas. We feel really good about the team, and it's going to be a lot of work come Paris, coming up here in just a couple of months. But we feel confident we've got the team to get it done. But now we got to go do it.
We're probably talking about close to 20 years that you've been at this, right? Because I believe, if I'm just kind of reading your bio and just kind of doing a little bit of background again and refreshing my own memory, it was about 2005 or so that you made the transition from wheelchair basketball to wheelchair rugby, and you were still very young at that point, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. 2005, 2006 is when I showed up to my first ever practice and promptly got destroyed because I was a little bit practically wasn't quite ready. But yeah, I've been doing this for at least half my life now at this point, probably coming up on 20 years, and it's been a special thing to get to be a part of. It's been fun to watch the growth of the movement over the years. That I've seen, but yeah, it's been a long time, but I still love it. I'm still having a blast, so I'm going to keep doing it for a while.
You referenced the kind of the growth. What specifically can you speak to in that regard?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of things. One is just the sheer amount of coverage that we've seen of the Paralympic Games. quite frankly, I go back to my very first one, and it was in London, and London was amazing. We had incredible crowds and things like that. But the coverage in the US was lacking, to be honest with you. It was hard to find. It was hard to find coverage across a lot of it. And then now for this year, like between NBC and Peacock, it's going to be everywhere. Like if you want to see the Paralympics, you're going to be able to see it full stop, period, which is just really exciting because, I think we've seen this in all sports that want to grow, like women's sports. We've seen this as well. It's like you have to air it. People have to be able to see it to be able to do it. And then, so that's been the one aspect. I think it's just the sheer amount of coverage and media attention we've seen. And the other growth has been really on sort of a commercial side, quite frankly. We've had so many more brands and partners come in and say, yeah, we want to support Paralympics. We see Paralympics as equal to the Olympics. For example, this time around, Comcast is actually, I'll show it off. They gave every single person who's made the team these really cool hats that say made it. Nice. And they also gave like a monetary contribution to every single athlete to help us, because what folks may or may not realize is, you see the Phelpses, you see the Biles, who are amazing and earn everything they get. But most of us are, we work a couple of jobs, we do this and that to pull things together, and we're just grinding away like everybody else and trying to compete at a high level. So it's been incredible to see that come in, like I said, with companies like Comcast and Xfinity supporting the Paralympic movement is really, really, and the Olympic movement, quite frankly, too, because not every Olympian would get this as well. So it's been amazing to see that growth. And I think too, it's like obviously Paris is in just a couple months, but in just a few years, the games are coming back home. So it's really exciting to see how much growth this is having in the United States as a whole. You
referenced just doing multiple things, just your bio. It seems like you are, like my wife, a lifelong learner. You've been stacking up degrees. What does that part of your life look like right now?
Yeah, I think my dad is a professor at Augsburg College in Minneapolis, and he's been there for a long time. And so education and learning has always been a big part of me. And I think it's actually part of what's made me a great athlete is that I've never been satisfied with something. It's like, okay, this was great. I'm glad I have this. What do I learn next? What's the next thing I can improve on? And so, yeah, I have my undergrad is from Metropolitan State University over in St. Paul. Yep. I did a master's over at U of M at the Humphrey School. Which was really fun. And, I've always been a person who has to keep my mind as stimulated as my body. And so the school has been the way to do that. I'm on what I like to call permanent hiatus from a PhD program at the University of Denver, which was a really great time. Enjoyed it, learned a lot. COVID / some injuries for myself happened that kind of had me say, okay, I need to set this aside, but I haven't abandoned it. I'm working at the University of Michigan as well, doing some work in their adaptive sports program. So I'm still touching academia, at least in some way. But yeah, it's been a really, learning is always something. And like I said, I think it contributes to success as an athlete is having this sort of like always hungry to learn the next thing and find the next thing. And it also leads to having a stack of books next to my bed that I'll never get through, but that's okay.
We all have our emotional support stack of bedside table books that we're never going to read. It's fine.
It's good. It's there. They're good. They're there.
Yeah, you just like the idea that you might read them someday. I've always got one or two that I'm going on right now. But you mentioned a couple things. One, I think what you just said about being a lifelong learner. I feel like over, I don't know how many years it's been, but over maybe the last 10 or 20 years, I feel like the stereotype of the athlete has been broken down. It used to be like the athlete, the dumb jock athlete kind of mentality. That feels like it's not a surprise anymore to hear someone like yourself or anybody else who is the complete opposite, who is, not only a great athlete, but is also, very intelligent and wants to work that part of their brain. Do you find that to be the case?
Absolutely. I think you're so right that, and the dumb jock still is, and every so often I think I play a sport where I crash into people. Right. That's maybe not the smartest thing. But no, I agree. I think we've seen this sort of embracement of athletes in their fullest, and whether that's academics, whether that's in fashion, business, whatever it may be. Yeah, I think we've really absolutely seen that broken down, and realizing that, athletes are human beings too. They have interests. They have likes. We have likes. We have dislikes that go just along as well. And yeah, I think that's been really cool. Because I think it allows us athletes to not be pigeonholed in, okay, when you finish your career, you're either a coach or you just you train other athletes, you know,
Right.
it's like, well, there's so much more out there for you to do. And I think too, we've all built a diverse set of skills because I like to say, yes, you know, being an Olympic or Paralympic athlete or a professional athlete requires, you know, a lot of physical hard work, but it requires a lot of mental effort too, in terms of like understanding, you know, being able to plan out your days, understanding training schedules, understanding how to do different things and manage things. It takes actually a lot of mental skills as well. And you know, I think we can contribute in a lot of different areas. But yeah, overall, I totally agree. I think we've seen that stereotype is not nearly as prevalent as it once was.
Athletes are so scheduled. Are you very scheduled? Do you have to be regimented in your days like that?
I do, and I do, and as I've just gotten older and I have more things going on in my life, you know, you have to find ways to sort of, you know, plan out your days. And for me, I've never been a big schedule person, so it is kind of tough. But it's like, you know, understanding that, okay, in the morning I'm going to get up and train, and then in this next window I'll do this, next window this, and I'll go back and train at the end of the day. And so for me, it helps. It's just about, it helps to prioritize. It says, okay, these are the two things that I simply must get done today, and then everything else sort of we build in around it, you know. And so scheduling helps with that. And certainly when you travel and are on the road a lot, it's like, okay, I'll be gone these 2 days, and I'll back this day and gone the next day. So how do we kind of manage all that? So yeah, there's not as much scheduling as I probably should have, but it certainly is a component to success.
What do you love about your sport? What are the things that just drive you to keep doing this?
Yeah. Well, you know, first of all, I think I've always loved the physicality of the sport. You know, it's wheelchair rugby, used to be called murder ball. So
Right. Yeah. That's
very
physical. Yeah.
intense. Yeah, it's very intense. It's very physical, which, you know, we say when someone starts it for the first time, you know, very quickly if they'll like it, because the first time they get hit, they either are like, ooh, I didn't like that so much, or their eyes light up. And I was an eyes light up person. So I love the physicality. You know, I think growing up with a disability, you can be treated as fragile. And sometimes you are fragile, quite frankly, when you're recovering from something. But it's a sport where, you know, fragility has never come into play. It's always been about who can be the strongest, the fastest, the hardest hitting, and all that. And so I love that. But I think the other part that I really love, and what truly does keep me coming back, is the community of athletes I have around me. You know, this year, you know, it's such a incredibly amazing, diverse set of people. You know, it's one of my best friends is from a small town in Southern Illinois, country guy, and I'm a city kid from Minneapolis. We never would have crossed paths if it wasn't for this sport. You know, another one is you know, he just finished up at Stanford, and he's someone I never would have met. Another teammate is our first ever female U.S. Paralympian, Sarah Adam, who's a professor at St. Louis University in St. Louis. You know, there's people who are all incredible and are all so close to me now, but are people I never would have met. You know, it's really, you know, about that community of athletes. I think they keep me coming back and wanting to succeed together. Because with some of them, I've been doing this for over a decade with them, and it's like we've come so close to achieving our ultimate goal, and we know that for some of them, Paris will probably be their last games, and it's like you want to push it on top for them. You want to finish really, really strong.
So what is the outlook then? Like you said, the silvers are great, that you get to you medal, everything is great, but you do want the gold. Where are you at right now, team wise, feeling like that'll be a possibility?
Yeah, we feel really good about it. You know, Team USA is currently ranked number 2 in the world, so we know we're in the mix of it. We know we're in the thick of it. I think the biggest thing for us is we know that when it comes to the Paralympics, we play 5 games in 5 days, and I would say of the 8 teams that are there, honestly, any of the 8 could medal. It would not shock me if any medal, which means that, well, we know we're good. We know we're one of the best teams. We've got to bring it for 5 games straight, and if we do that, if we play to our standard, I know we can come home with a gold medal, but the other teams will probably have something to say about that, right? And so it's really about making sure we can bring it for 5 days straight. You know, we'll finish that first game. Okay, it's focus up, ready for the second game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so, you know, it's going to be an absolute grind and a battle, but I think we've really got a diverse set. We've got 6 first-time Paralympians and 6 long-time ones who I think it'll be at least their 3rd games. And so we've got the squad to do it. And it's up to us now to prove it, though.
It feels like that's across the board at the Olympics and Paralympics, but it feels like the reason we probably love watching it so much is it comes down to, you put so many years into one concentrated stretch of time. Like, I guess I guess like pro sports playoffs and like March Madness are kind of like that, where it comes down to that. But it's like it feels extra like compressed when it's 4 years and then you get this one chance. Do you enjoy that pressure, that aspect of it? How do you deal with kind of that kind of mindset?
Yeah, it definitely is unique. I think that it's obviously when you see the team that lost the championship in the NBA or NFL, they're obviously crushed. They do know they'll probably be able to go at it again the next year, although you never know for sure. But yeah, for us, it's a different mindset. You think in 4-year cycles. You think this is our chance to be on the world stage. For everyone to see us, everybody to watch us. And so it's something that I think, if you've been in this movement long enough, like myself, you kind of get used to it and you kind of understand it. But you always know that you never know when it's going to be your last one, because at some point it's out of your control. And so, I think for me, what it's become a case of is really, how do I just embrace this moment? How do I embrace every second of it? How do I have, fun doing it, quite frankly? And just embrace the fact that you have this, we're going to have this moment on the world stage that everyone across the globe will be able to see and stream and all those things. And so how do we just embrace that moment? How do we, make the absolute most of it? And, I think it's, would it be nice to have a chance every year to go for it? Maybe, but it wouldn't be as special then. It wouldn't. It's part of what makes the Olympics and Paralympics so special. So this is something that for us, it's every 4 years.
Couple more things for you, Chuck. Enjoying this conversation. We talked at the beginning. You said you bleed purple and gold. You are near Ann Arbor. So you before we started recording, you said you have been kind of doing some scouting of new Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy. You got a chance to see him, I would imagine, out there. What's your take? What do you think? Is this the year?
I think that JJ's got the tools, man. He's got the tools. He can run, he can throw. He's got all the tools, and he's got the whole thing. Like, I've been wanting this since I was young, which shows a mindset, right? It shows a mindset of demanding to be great. And I think that any elite athlete, I can certainly appreciate that from my end, is like, yeah, you want it. And so I think he's going to bring a lot of dynamism. I think the challenges that we all know, college to the NFL, is a totally different level. And yes, what is good is that he's played in front of the biggest stadium in the country. Yeah. So pressure is no problem for him. It's like, can he get everything else figured out? And, I think he can. I think he led them to a championship here, which is really exciting for the city. I'm still also a maroon and gold at heart. So
there you go.
But yeah, no, I think he's got the tools and capabilities, but I think there's also no need to rush him. I feel good about the plan, and I feel good about the coaching staff. So
is that the Minnesota sports team you follow far and away more than anything else?
I think, it's football is king, and I love me a football, but I'm a huge basketball fan. My first sport was wheelchair basketball, right. So of course, so much affection. It was a great season overall, but a tough end for our Wolves.
Right.
And of course, baseball was my very first sport I ever played before I even had to start using a wheelchair. And so the Twins are near and dear, and Wild and Lynx and all the incredible teams. I follow it all. Okay. No matter where I am across the world, I'm always watching.
Well, I think people will feel the same about you when we're watching you in not too long here. Chuck, appreciate your time. Best of luck. Go get that medal, but also go enjoy the experience, just like you said, because these are moments that you never know when they're going to come around again. How, take it all in, savor it, and best of luck. All right.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I got to do the shout out. Make sure you watch us, NBC, Peacock, all the time. Paralympic coverage. We need every single piece of eyeballs we can get. So make sure you check us out.
All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Awesome. Thanks.
Great stuff from Chuck Aoki. I'm really glad I got a chance to sit down and talk to him this week. Paralympics start late next month, August 28th in Paris after the conclusion of the Olympics. U.S. going for gold in wheelchair rugby. We'll see if they can bring it home along with Chuck. Let us finish with the cooler, the Twins. Don't mean to relegate them to the end of the show. It's not really a relegation anyway. I saved some good stuff for here always, but they're kind of in this spot now where we expect them to win, and that was not the expectation at a lot of points in this season. Even when their record was better, They were so inconsistent. They keep winning series now, though. It's been about a month that they've been kind of playing this brand of baseball where they're competitive all the time. Manager Rocco Baldelli talked about that after another series win, a rain-shortened 12-3 victory over Detroit that gave them 2 out of 3 over the Tigers on Thursday.
No, we've been competitive in every ball game for about a month, and that's not easy to do, and the only way to do that is for the entire team to contribute, the entire pitching staff to contribute, the entire bullpen to be out there and pitching and winning games at different times. You need everybody, and the guys are really, kind of gluing together and playing good baseball. So, we're pleased. It's July. We never ever get too far ahead of ourselves in our game. Because there's a lot of things that can happen. Anything can happen any given day, but the consistency by, at which we're playing right now on both sides of the ball, I think it's great, and we need to continue it.
Now, it was hardly a ho-hum game when you had a 12-3 victory. Jose Miranda, 5 hits in 7 innings. The 7th inning got truncated, but he did have his 5th hit in the 7th. Because the rain shortened the game, didn't get a chance to go 6 for 6. It would have been interesting to see if he could have squeezed another at-bat out of this game in the 8th. Probably wouldn't have gotten a chance in the 9th unless things went catastrophically wrong with the Twins bullpen, but would have been fun to see him get a chance to go 6 for 6. Nevertheless, he led a massive offensive attack. He had 3 doubles in the game. Twins pounded out 14 hits as a team. Ryan Jeffers, 3 hits. Carlos Correa still going well. He had a hit and a walk, couple runs scored. Max Kepler, a couple hits, couple RBIs, things like that. So offense up and down the lineup. Brooks Lee had a hit and an RBI. Up doing it right now. Bailey Ober, another good outing. Just some solid performances getting it done for the Twins right now. Couldn't say that very often at the beginning of the year and weren't saying it consistently enough even into the later parts of April and May. That will do it for me today. End of the week, of course. Royce back at it with me on Monday. Until then, enjoy your weekend. I'm Michael Rand. We'll talk to you then.